internet again. Watch out, internet.
I'm wearing my pandemic T-shirt.
What is it? What does it say there on the bottom? What is that?
Would not recommend.
Would not recommend. 2020.
1 star. 1 star. But not a good year. It's like that. It's like the reverse of that Sinatra song. It wasn't a very good year. But man, I miss you, dude. Yeah, I miss you. I was like, man, it's been like 3 weeks, I think, since we did this.
I know. I'm sorry. I had a church retreat going on, and then just slammed at work. Just been crazy.
Well, you probably have so many deep insights since you've had a chance to think and meditate and be by yourself and not in the zeitgeist. So impress us, man. What do you got?
So
what are your deep thoughts?
I'm afraid I don't have any. I've been I think a victim of the whole thing that I keep telling people to do. Like if you're about to be super outraged by something in the news, wait a couple weeks and it'll probably just go away. You probably won't even think about it anymore. So one that happened while we were gone was Jimmy Kimmel got canceled out and then was back on. And now he's going back to losing viewers just like he was earlier. And so
now he's more famous than ever, man. Yeah.
Well, so the day that he got back,
highest ratings in history.
Yeah, it's like triple the amount. It's already back down. I think people were like, "Is he going to apologize? Is he going to say sorry?" And he sort of expressed regret about people taking what he said the wrong way or whatever. Okay, but no, he's back. Good for him. A win for free speech, maybe. I guess. I don't know.
So what did you think? Did you think like, oh, this is government overreach?
No. Well, the way that happened. So the late night TV time slot is really used to be a really lucrative spot for advertisers. People would put on late night TV as they would go to sleep or whatever. And now with streaming, that's just not the case. Like people are not watching. So really these, like anything else on TV, they live and die by their advertisers. And when he said what he said about the, saying that, oh, MAGA killed Charlie Kirk or something, or it was a MAGA person. Okay. There's two really big conglomerates, Sinclair and Nexstar are the two.
Okay.
They own a whole bunch of stations, and they own stations in big markets, and they were going to preempt him. So the reason this just triggered something for ABC is because suddenly, if the stations that would be playing his show are simply not playing his show, then the advertisers are like, well, why would we pay X amount of dollars to now be in a third of the markets that we would have been before? It'd be like if Clear Channel for radio blackballed you. Then it's like, oh, well, your song just never gets heard on the radio at all, except there's like some pirate radio station somewhere or some independent station. So these two aren't that big. It's not like radio. It's not like TV is locked up the way radio is locked up, but it would have been a significant hit to the amount of people watching the show, or even have it available at all to watch on broadcast.
Now, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Because I get the business case. In fact, I saw a graph. In fact, here, I'll share it with you so you can see this. So this is a graph of the three big shows, right? And how they've lost viewers. This goes back to 2011. So this is 10 of 2011. Mm-hmm. All three of them, and then through what is that?
And this is for the 18 to 49 group. Like this is the group.
Pardon me. This is 2010, 2011. That rating season all the way through 24, 25. So
okay,
this is their share of audience, basically, right?
Of the audience that spends money.
The 18 to 49. That's the what they call the coveted demographic, right?
Right.
And you can see all of these. They've been losing popularity since really since, shoot, to 10, 12 years, and
Mhm.
there are different reasons for that, which we can get into in a second. But my question is, okay, so they're definitely a business case for, doing some kind of shakeup. If I owned one of these stations and had this show, this would definitely be on my list of things to address.
Yeah.
Why do you think there's a conversation about free speech now, though? Like, why is it confusing this time, or to people? Do you think it's all manufactured, or is there a reason that?
So I think it's manufactured. I think that this is a different case than the ones where people are being. So someone say dances with glee at the murder of Charlie Kirk, right? So that in their mind, we joke about it being like season whatever of U.S. politics, and like it's a show, and in their mind,
Hunger Games.
Yeah,
my buddy Jason would do a Hunger Games series. Anytime somebody would drop out of the primary, he would put, ding, sound the bell for, yeah.
Well, and so for some people, I think watching politics for them is like the way people would watch Game of Thrones, and so like you have a favorite character get killed, the one that you love to hate gets killed off, and you're like, yeah, that's right, and I'm not going to spoil it for people, but like there's some people that people definitely cheered when certain characters were killed off in the show, and so for some people, I feel like it doesn't occur to them, yeah. Well, it doesn't, but it's a fiction, right? I think some people, it doesn't occur to them that like, oh, this is a real person. They have family, their parents are grieving, all this other stuff. And just for them, it's like, oh, cool. I hated that character. I'm so glad the writers killed him off so that we can get on with the show because I hated that subplot.
Couldn't stand watching that guy. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So they're up there dancing in TikTok, and now when you've got people who then say, okay, let's figure out, oh, look, they have their real name out there. Let's figure out who they work for. Oh, they're employed by this person. Let's make them famous. Let's retweet them. Say, look how disgusting this person is. Retweet their employer, and people are getting fired over it. That is a free speech issue. It's a private citizen doing something on their own, and maybe hopefully especially if it was just their own, like their own TikTok channel where they post the recipes or how they do their makeup in the morning. It has nothing to do with work whatsoever, and then they're pressured, that some people go pressure their employers to fire them. I think that's despicable. I mean, you should if someone wants to be ghoulish and dance over someone's grave, that's their business, but like we shouldn't go out there and try to like have them fired. Kimmel, on the other hand, is a public figure who has a platform that is paid for by advertisers and public goodwill. And to lose both of those would mean that you lose your platform. I mean, I think it would be a really different situation. Like think of what happened with Tucker Carlson, who was on Fox for the longest time and then got fired. I can't remember what it was. It was some issue that Fox management didn't want him to touch, so they canned him. And it was like, he wound up going.
He got fired. He got fired in the wake of the Dominion scandal because it cost the network $800 billion or whatever it was.
The voting
800 million. Pardon me. Yeah. But yeah, almost $1 billion because of they were slandering the voting company that made the voting machine. Yeah. But that's a legitimate. You did slander them. There was no evidence for that. You had them on there. I mean,
sure.
That is there's a standard, absence of malice, and they did not exhibit that. They exhibited a reckless disregard for the truth.
So that's why it's like him getting fired is not a free speech thing. It's like, hey, it's now a bad business decision to have you around. Now, if on the other hand, he wasn't able to have a platform anywhere, like if there was a coordinated effort to make sure that no one ever heard from him ever again, then I think then we'd be looking at a free speech situation. But as it is, Tucker went on to create his own show on X and is probably now more popular and probably richer than he's ever been. And so no one's silencing Tucker. It's just you can't work here anymore because what you did was part of your job as a reporter, as a news organization. So that's why I don't think it's a real free speech issue. Now, if we...
well, okay, so let me let me just ask you some other questions. So do you think that it was appropriate for the head of the FCC to weigh in and say, hey, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and different people have come on and like kind of parse through that and be like, well, he could have been referring to this, and so that wouldn't make it illegal, blah, blah, blah. It's all very cute, but it's also, look, this is a guy who heads the government agency responsible for determining whether you can renew your license or not, and he's up there making, veiled threats. Is that appropriate or inappropriate?
If so, I think that all depends on what it was that Kimmel said.
Well, we know what he said. So.
Right. And so depending on how you parse what Kimmel said, then I think you can then parse the response from the FCC.
Well, I mean, we could. I mean, there's nothing that he said that was not actually true. I mean, MAGA was trying to distance themselves and make sure that he was portrayed as anything but one of them. And frankly, I mean, it doesn't appear that he is one of them. So, like, but there's nothing that's untrue there. I mean, they were shouting down. In fact, I personally got shouted down for. Because as those news reports came out that said that, he comes from a right-wing family and he was pro-Trump and whatever else, the family was pro-Trump, but he was not, and so the reporting was incomplete. And when I saw it, I shared it because we had a thread going on about it, and I was like, oh, here's something that came out. If this turns out to be true, then that's. That puts a lot of egg on a lot of people's faces since they've been like railing against. They want to kill us,
Yeah.
So bottom line is there was a lot of inappropriate rhetoric.
Yeah,
for sure. People celebrating his death, for sure. People, using it as a cause celeb to organize and be ready to place blame on an entire political party rather than a person. So I mean, like, there was a lot of inappropriate emotional communication. But like what he said, was in bad taste? Yes. Was it inaccurate? No, it was not inaccurate. So
I guess it's not inaccurate in the same way that you could say, I don't think Hemati has ever denied that he was a member of the Jehovah's Witness.
That's right.
I've never denied that. But if you said that in a context where a lot of people were talking about that, you lent your voice to it, and you said, well, I didn't say that he was. I just said that he never denied it. It's like,
right.
All right. It seems like that's more than simply an observation about this one group over here that is technically, if you look at all the words, correct.
We've been doing an investigation, and it seems that we can verify categorically that over the last several months, so-and-so has not been beating their wife. It's like also totally true and also somewhat misleading. Yep. Okay. So I hear you. Yeah. I hear you. So my question though is it appropriate for the head of the FCC to be making threats against the network for having, a personality on the air? Like,
so I don't know about what the FCC said. If it was a veiled threat,
if it was the, so we know what everybody said here, right? So,
right. Well, I'm not familiar with the quote, but go ahead.
Okay. If it was, for a thought exercise for you, if it was the Biden administration and the head of the Biden FCC had come out because Gutfeld had made some, insensitive, inappropriate remark, right? And said, well, hey, we could do this the easy way or the hard way. And then subsequently Fox kicked Gutfeld off the air. Would you then be as sanguine about it, or would you be like, hey, this is inappropriate?
Yeah. It's sort of like, does this trample freedom of the press?
Just in general, like, because I feel like, look, I mean, you have some preferences. I have some, we all have political preferences. And sometimes those preferences cause us to like, kind of give a pass to people when we would not give a pass to somebody else for doing the same thing,
No, I hear you. And I think, so if this was a newspaper, I would have very different views because there's no licensing or spectrum involved with paper. So, I think anytime a government agency, and same thing with internet, where like if a government agency said, hey, look, Facebook or whatever, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, I would be extremely upset about something like that. Because that's one of those where there's an unlimited access. Like, we're not talking about something that is licensed from the public the way the airwaves are. Now, you and I might I mean, if we were sitting here saying this, should the airwaves be licensed in the same way they have been, given the new realities of digital television, all that other stuff, we might disagree there, and say no, we don't need the FCC to have the same kind of power that it has. So then it just depends. Like if it was a let's do this the easy way, the hard way, we don't like what he's saying, then I think that's extremely inappropriate. If it's something like, hey, we can show that he knew that this was false or misleading, and like we're going to need some kind of retraction here, or otherwise this becomes a problem. Misuse of the public airwaves. Then I think that's different. I would still want to see that case adjudicated. But if it's just like we don't like what he said, let's see about
Well,
removing your
so
license, then well, no,
yeah,
I'm not happy with that. Like if that's what was going on, that shouldn't have happened.
yeah. I'll tell you
Hey,
where
I'll go further. The thing that JD Vance said in his speech where he was like, "Hey, if you know people that have been celebrating this, you should like be public about denouncing them or turning them in or whatever." I think that's completely inappropriate,
it's
completely wrong.
outrageous.
It's like
It's outrageous.
I think if he wants to earn my vote in the future, whatever, that's something that he's going to need to address and probably even like withdraw or apologize for. Or, emotions were hot, and I see now why that was wrong or whatever. Like I would, that is a disqualifying remark in my opinion. So like I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm not granting anybody a blank check on this one.
yeah.
So
I feel like it, it's so funny because you know the killing and then all the events that have happened subsequent, and of course there's so many other things we could talk about. I mean, it's just a wave of mass murder, literally the last like week or so, all over the world, and it's getting harder and harder for me to like stand on principle, so to speak. Right? It's like oh, I believe in this principle, and so blah blah blah. And it's like, man, I mean, nobody, it seems like in power anyway, takes any of these principles seriously on either side. And it's almost like, okay, so if I'm going to move past, I mean, I could sit here and stand on principle all day long, but it's not relevant to anything, So,
it's not
but I
rewarding.
but I will comment on the efficacy, right? Or does something actually work, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, this guy at the FCC, not only was it improper, but it was also completely counterproductive because I agree that probably the reason he was taken off had nothing to do with Carr's statements. It had everything to do with the business reasons that are in this chart.
Mm-hmm.
There are, Larry Ellison now, head of Oracle, has bought CBS,
Oh, I
and
didn't know that.
he bought. He paid like over $100 million for the Free Press, Barry Weiss's
Oh,
organization, right?
really? No way.
And which is an insane multiple on her revenue model. But it's he's conservative. He's very he's basically he is bought and paid for by the Zionists. So I mean,
Yeah.
the whole thing there is
There's a lot of conservatism, but he's part of the pro-Israel conservatism.
that's correct.
Yeah.
And so his whole game plan is to remake CBS in that mold, and Barry Weiss
Oh,
and her
she's
group. I
very
mean,
pro-Israel. Yeah.
they're APAC friendly big time, and so I mean, like that whole thing. I mean, basically he sees the same thing that anybody with two brain cells knocking together can see, and that is that dude Fox is the number one, not just number one like they're beating these other guys, but they are bigger than the entire, uh, in terms of viewers, right? Than the other three put together.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason is because they're filling this. I mean, we can make a comment about whether, which
Give
of
the
these
people what
organizations
they
has.
want.
well, you could go down the whole rabbit hole of like who has accurate reporting, and are you actually getting news on any of these stations, et cetera, which would be a fun conversation for another day. But like, bottom line is like in terms of the audience for this material, they're the only ones that are actually putting out material that conservatives or Republicans that's like on that wavelength. And
Mm-hmm.
there's just a massive opportunity for somebody to go in there and get their piece of the conservative half of America. I mean, like, and it's and that's not an advocate for either any position. It's just, dude, that there's a conversation out there, and when you have only one group of people that are actually giving the other point of view any credibility or space, they're going to suck up all the money around that.
Yeah.
That's obvious. I mean, there was a I don't know if you saw this. Did you see this?
No, what is this?
Okay, so this is left-leaning guest list for late night shows. This is just taking the late night shows: Colbert, Daily Show, Seth Meyers, Kimmel, Fallon, Trevor Noah, and James Corden. Right?
Okay.
These are their guests.
So Corden is almost apolitical.
Well, yeah, he's only had 4 political guests on, but
yeah,
so this is measuring. This is measuring from January of 2023 through July of 2025. So this is 2.5 years of guests. And you can see there's a grand total of 14 conservative/Republican guests to 511 on the other side. I mean, there's which okay, like, frankly, I identify more with like the liberal or Democrat point of view on a whole host of issues. And for me, it's like, okay, well, I don't find those ideas offensive when they're put out there. And so that's very validating to listen to this show. Right. But it also, I'm not fooling myself thinking I'm taking in the alternate point of view or anything, or that I'm seriously engaging in the debate in any way. I'm just, comfortable in my own righteousness, And this is ridiculous. I mean, like, so the business case for why these numbers are like this is, well, dude, I mean, you're literally just ignoring half the country, what they think. So, and again, to me, this is a market forces issue more than a free speech issue. I'm not sitting here saying conservatives are having their free speech rights trampled on because they don't get invited on these shows. There are plenty of other places they can go make their case known, and they do. And in fact, that's where the eyeballs are going, right? So, okay. And that's something the market can sort out. So if ABC, CBS, whatever, if they're all like, hey, no, this is the only market we want to cater to, fine, keep running your business, no problem. That's not an FCC issue. So like when the FCC wades in, or the president specifically weighs in and is like, I can't believe they kept him on the air. We're going to do something about that. It's like, dude, that is you're literally like, forget about all the principles and things that you're violating, or that's not the spirit of the Constitution, whatever. It's just that it's not helpful. Like, you're not helping your own case either, So it's like this Comey indictment. I mean, he's going to be able to very credibly claim and probably win a summary judgment just based on the fact that this is obviously a political prosecution. Like, here's the president basically, like, here's all the statements from these prosecutors saying there's nothing to see here, and here's the president saying, Pam, do this, and then she does it like literally 2 days later. I mean, clearly that's a political prosecution, and he's going to get that dismissed, which is unfortunate because he did lie to Congress, and he does deserve to get prosecuted for it. So to me, that's where it's like, you're literally stepping on your own. Oh, I can't say that. You're being counterproductive to your own objective.
Yeah. So this is going to sound kind of weird, but I have more of a problem with the FCC, if there's an FCC commissioner that does this, than I have a problem with Trump doing it. And the reason why, and this is just because the guy's Twitter feed or his X feed or Truth Social, whatever, is just stream of consciousness. Like, if he said, there'll be time.
That's fine. But if you want to say, hey, Jimmy Kimmel should be held accountable for what he says. I mean, hey, he's a funny guy. Hey, he obviously leans left. Hey, he just happened to say what he was saying in the moment. Stream of consciousness. It's like, well, no, but you're still accountable.
No.
So he's not accountable?
No. So he is. So Jimmy Kimmel is accountable to his bosses, and Donald Trump is accountable to his bosses, otherwise known as the American people. So obviously,
the Constitution is his boss.
Right, but he
swore an oath to it.
Right, but you would be fired by the voters, basically, is the idea here, and obviously he's not going to stand for re-election again. He can't. But every
voter I talk to, I mean, I can't think of a single voter that I talk to that well, pardon me, I can think of a few MAGA people who would say different, but the vast majority of everybody I talk to in every election has said this is a choice of lesser of two evils, right? So like,
Okay, yeah,
I hate that guy, but I really hate that guy, so I'm going to go with this one. Okay,
sure,
so just because you vote for somebody doesn't mean you're endorsing
right,
their behavior. In fact, you could literally be like, I'm against everything this person does, but at least they're not as bad as that guy.
yeah.
So you can't say, oh, well, he put himself up for the voters and they went ahead. Yeah, because they have two choices.
Yeah. So,
They're not
but
endorsing that.
right. No, all I'm saying is that I think there's a long history of the president's social media being separate from his official actions. Like,
This
and and
president.
and here's something that is, I mean, mom and dad were over here a week ago, and we were laughing about this because it was just right as he came out with the tweet that was like, or the Truth Social thing where he's like, I think Ukraine can win. In fact, they
Oh
could get
yeah,
back all
yeah,
their territory and more, and it's just
yeah.
like we're all sitting there laughing, like, what is he talking about? What is this? And it's like, oh, it doesn't. We're not worried. That it's like, oh, is this? Did he just declare war? Is this World War III? And it's like, no, this is just him doing whatever he's doing, and like you don't worry about the Truth Social thing. Worry about the official actions. Like you just
Don't worry
like
about the truth, period, with this guy. I
Truth
mean,
Social. Well,
yeah.
what I've started doing with my students is at the end of all my announcements, putting "Thank you for your attention to this matter." An
Totally. Why
exclamation
not?
point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
thank you for your
I
attention
actually
to
said
this
that.
matter.
I actually said that in the meeting the other day because it's good. It's
Yeah,
like
thank you for your attention to this matter. What?
there's a lot to learn from the guy. That's a good one. Going back to that Ukraine tweet, I love the way he ended it. Like he's
And more.
signing off. He's signing off before a soccer game or something. It's like good luck to everyone. It's like, wait, what? Wait, good luck to everyone. Have a great game. No hitting below the belt.
Yeah.
It's like what is going on here?
Well, and it's like, well, because you have all these customers that have now agreed to buy a certain set number of arms from you at full price. So you're like, maybe they should keep fighting. I don't know. I don't know what they
Well,
should.
dude, you gotta give you gotta give the guy credit. I was talking to somebody the other day. I was like, dude, because they were very, very negative on Trump, obviously, and I was like, look, I don't disagree with your take. However, that said, okay, you got to give the guy credit. I mean, he has restructured so many of these relationships where it's like, okay, we're going to continue to help you out here, but we're going to get ours first, and it's like it really takes the fangs of the whole like why are we bending over backwards? Well, because there's money in it. Oh, okay, well there's money in it. It's like that's like the
But it's
default
fine.
American position there. Oh, there's money involved. Okay, well I'll hear you out. Tell me how it
No
works.
problem.
It's
great.
I don't know, man. Anyway, okay, so well, we could beat the dead horse on that a lot. The Kimmel thing. To me, it was just one of those flashpoints of where you just kind of more than anything else for me, it brings out just how unknowingly hypocritical people are, and including myself. It's like you think you're trying to apply your frame of reference in an even-handed way, and in reality, like like just even your own kind of like contextualization of it. I remember when we were talking under this a few years ago when Biden was president, and you were talking about somebody that had gotten deplatformed, and you were like, look, they're they're getting kicked off this platform and that platform. They can't go bank and da da da. And and I remember at the time being very sanguine about it. Like, hey, these are business decisions, and it's like, okay, we don't want you on our platform saying this garbage. We don't agree with it, and you're out. Go say it somewhere else. That's not a freedom of speech issue. A constitutional freedom of speech issue, right?
Mm-hmm.
The same way that I think this Kimmel situation, and there are plenty of other examples, by the way, on the left where people, when they came out, literally, I want to say last week or 2 weeks ago, with Google and Facebook both like admitted, the Biden administration, people in the administration told us, like, you have to take this down, you have to get rid of this, you got to sign this that
It's
person.
not breaking in our rules. Like, do it anyway. Like,
right? It's like, okay, well, so and it was funny because whenever Bill Maher had Rob Reiner on his who I love, Rob Reiner, man.
Hey, he's willing to
Spinal
go out
Tap.
there and say his piece, which I
Well,
appreciate.
and he's doing a Spinal Tap part 2. It's coming
Good for
out.
him. Good for him.
So yeah, very excited about that. That was his first movie. Did you know that he made?
I did
didn't know
not.
that.
Isn't that
Anyway,
great? Start
so
with a classic. Like your first thing you do is amazing.
amazing, right? No script. The entire thing pretty much completely improvised. We go to 11. So great. Anyway, so but Mar is asking Reiner about this situation, and Mar, and Reiner was like, "Oh, free speech, da da da. This is inappropriate," which I agree, it is inappropriate. But then when Mar turned around and said, "Well, what did you think about the Biden administration?" Google saying, and then it was like all of a sudden he's like, "Well, I mean, but who in the White House was saying that? I mean, I have to look into it. I don't know how I feel about it." It's like, how do you not know how you feel about that? Those are people that same thing. These are, I mean, the only difference is that this guy was the head of the FCC, which makes it even more egregious, let's say, than some flunky. However, if the flunky in the administration, all right, they're on the payroll, they're in the White House, they're in the administration, they're calling up speaking for the administration, and you are doing what they say. That is the definition of government instruction. I mean, that's what.
Yeah.
So how can you not be upset? But he wasn't. He was just kind of like, well, I don't know. I mean, we'll have to look into it. I mean, I don't know the way you're characterizing it, but I mean, I guess we'll have. But I'll get back to you. And it's like, bro, like just say that's
Like,
bullshit,
that's
because
wrong.
that's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah.
So allow me to take the opportunity then to say that given your characterization of the FCC, if we're assuming that's correct, that it was something like, hey, you need to get rid of this guy, we don't like him, we don't like what he said was wrong or something, and it wasn't a like, hey, I think you guys might have violated some FCC policy here, which I think even if it had been that, then that would tweet would be the incorrect way to inform them that they might have violated a policy that might need to be fined or
Right.
something like that. So then, yeah, I think that all that whole thing's ridiculous. I do think there is a difference. I don't know how relevant it is, but there is a difference between platforming other people's speech. So like, I don't think there's any expectation that, say, Google endorses in the view of any particular YouTube video, where there is more of an expectation that the TV company is producing this show and arranging the advertisements for it, and there is
Paying the salaries of everybody involved.
yeah,
right.
so like it seems to be more the speech of the company than, and I think sometimes that's why you see stuff like, hey, when Tucker Carlson said what he said about Dominion, they came after the company because it was their speech. So I think there is a difference there. We might go back and forth a little bit about how relevant it is between those two, but I don't think. I think the real, I would feel terrible for, is ABC, right? Kimmel's on ABC.
Mm-hmm.
I would feel terrible for them in
ABC/Disney. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate that they were put in this situation, because I think this was the best opportunity once Sinclair and Nexstar, I think, bailed.
Totally.
This is the great
That's
time
exactly my point.
to cut them loose. And it's
That's
like,
exactly my point.
No advertise that people don't want to run you. Advertisers are leaving. We got to go. But instead, now it's like, they don't want to show weakness in front of the FCC and all this other stuff.
Exactly.
So now they're going to be stuck with him. I'm kind of curious how long he lasts. I mean, maybe this does inject some fire into his, or wind into his sails, and so, hey, problem solved, and it's good news for everybody. But if not, maybe he lasts for another season, and then you sort of quietly let him sputter out.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I mean, like, to me, just stepping away from the politics.
It becomes like a digital exclusive on Plus only. Like, and it's like, yeah, sure, yeah, it's content. You can have some money for that.
Well, before they brought him back, right? Like in those 4 or 5 days or whatever, I was thinking to myself, this is maybe the best thing that's ever happened to Kimmel, in the sense that, like, he's a smart guy, he's creative, he is funny, and he's got all the contacts, he's got everything.
Long history in this business.
That's right, and he could very simply. I mean, like, he was co-host of the Man Show. Adam Carolla, who co-hosted that show with him, his podcast, Adam Carolla's podcast, gets more views than Kimmel's late night show.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, dude, so, like, I mean, you could easily go and spool up something that you own and that you'd be working. So it would have been.
It might have been better, just the way it was better for Tucker.
Possibly. All I'm saying is possibly, and I think if he does get ends up the show gets canceled or moves on or whatever. I mean, he's a sharp dude, and he's going to land on his feet, and not just land on his feet. Like, I mean, if he's smart, he'll leverage that to level up, his personal platform. So I think it's I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens.
And to his credit, I did watch the little short segment on his return show where he addressed the comments that he had made, and he seemed
which was good. I was
genuinely emotional about it. And also, I think that he led the crowd in a nice way of expressing both sadness for this and like a more unifying message that people applauded for. And so I think that was good. Like I if you're going to come back and like come back in a way that's restorative, and so awesome, like good for him.
Yeah. Okay. So next topic, what do you think about Portland?
Okay. So I have not been following this very closely. Did they put boots on the ground?
I
don't mean the song.
Yeah. Boots on the ground. Did federal troops.
But this is all about the organized, I guess the anarchist movement that's there in Portland.
Yeah. So as of 2 hours ago, Trump is declaring on Truth Social that they're now in place. So we'll see.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do I think about it? This one's tricky. During the 2020 stuff, the federal buildings were attacked pretty harshly, and there was quite a few federal officers that were injured by the anarchists, the professional anarchists there in Portland. Some of the federal agents had debilitating eye damage, because one of the techniques that was used would be to shine lasers into the eyes of the people guarding. You can't close your eyes.
Exactly.
So they wound up having to, once that was started happening, the government started issuing diffraction glasses so that it would diffract the laser beams and so on. And then it seemed like in 2020 that both the local and the state authorities didn't have a problem with this. It was almost like they were excited to see the federal buildings damaged as part of a larger narrative. So, normally I would say, hey, if the local or state government doesn't want the extra help, then you shouldn't go in. I think, though, that in this case, because of the disregard for the federal buildings that are there, that you would basically just have to withdraw the federal government from Oregon.
Well, that's
which seems a little weird,
we don't want you here. Feds
I guess it's like, hey, we need to file this in federal court. There are no federal courts in Oregon.
Right. That's actually not part of the United States.
Yeah.
So that is the rationale they're using. So because the legal rationale would hinge on a request, right, of some kind, or a violation of federal law. So like when JFK sent the National Guard down to Alabama to open up, it's because they were violating the civil rights law. And even though the governor and everybody else was like, don't do it, you send them to Alabama.
Was that Kennedy or Johnson?
Or was it LBJ that did it?
Well,
LBJ.
During
one of the two.
Yeah, during the civil rights.
I feel like it was Kennedy.
Yeah, anyway. maybe it was. Well,
anyway,
what our viewers will tell us is like, you fools.
Yeah, I'm sure. Idiots. Okay, so but that's the rationale that they're using here, is that, like, look, you specifically the aggression against ICE, right? So they're saying, hey, look, these are federal troops or federal officers enforcing federal law, and
they have jurisdiction.
They do have jurisdiction, and there's an alignment of local government with a criminal element in this case to block the enforcement of the laws. Mm-hmm. And that's their. Did you see that article where the crowd firebombed Ice Cube's trailer because they thought they saw ice, and they thought, oh, that's ice, and so they firebombed his.
I'm trying to think of. There it is, Robbie. Yeah, we knew. So I was thinking of what would be a good non-incendiary example or metaphor from the past. So, like,
too soon.
imagine this was this was during Prohibition, and let's say that the state of Kentucky said that this is where bourbon was made,
We
and
make bourbon here, and you
we're
can
still
suck
making
it.
bourbon.
That's it.
And any time that like because how was it done? It was done through the tax system, right? That's how the prohibition was. It was the I can't remember
Well, you
which.
weren't prohibited. You weren't prohibited from uh, possessing alcohol. You just
Right,
couldn't sell alcohol. Yeah.
right, because and I can't remember which agency it was that enforced this. Um, but then let's
Oh,
say
it
that
was Elliot Ness, man. What
no,
was
no,
the
no,
FBI?
that was different. That was for the Chicago gangland stuff. But
I saw that movie, dude.
so let's say whichever agency it was, they're down there, and whenever they come into the state, basically that the state and local governments in Kentucky had a handshake deal with the bootleggers that hey, whatever harassment you give to these federal agents, we're just going to look the other way. Like you slash their tires, like oh, that's really weird. It's like you can come out in broad daylight and do it, and we'll set you free, and it's all good. Don't worry. And everyone's like, awesome, booze is still legal here in the great state of Kentucky. Um, so what then? Like it's not like they're gonna say
The difference is that we would be cheering on the criminals in that case, So like,
I mean, I would, but
yeah. Well, we have a very recent example of this with the marijuana laws, right? So,
that's where the federal government just kind of backed off. Said,
well, but that was literally an alignment of the criminal element and the state and local government saying, we're going to make new laws. We don't care what the feds say. And so, and where the local laws are actually in they're I don't know what the right word, conflict with the federal law. So it's like, well, you're under both jurisdictions. Which one do I listen to? Well, the one that I prefer, of course. So, yeah. So, but and I think that's kind of where it'll be interesting to see where the courts come down on this. Obviously, there's lawsuits against it right now, but like proceeding. But it'd be interesting to see where the courts come down on it because it's like, well, what do we say? Do we say it is okay to disregard federal immigration law or not? Or I don't know. It's interesting.
I think if they do say that, I think that'll be interesting. I think we've seen a slow rolling case for nullification of federal laws. I think marijuana, you're absolutely right, is I think the biggest first domino. And I'm kind of curious. I think Trump won't let this happen, but as more and more states legalize at least medical, if not recreational marijuana, we might be in a situation where all 50 or nearly all 48 or so states have it legalized while still being federally illegal. And that would be just so ridiculous that, it kind of makes a mockery of the federal laws, really, at that point.
Not like we need another reason.
Yeah, it's like get in line, right? So then, so like with the immigration stuff, I was like, well, we don't agree with that. Now, I think the problem is that you could just say, well, we're going to ignore those federal laws, but if the feds are hell bent on enforcing them, then the handshake deal with the local mobsters that involves doing violence to the federal agents is where this starts to look more like a problem, like more like a rebellion or something. Because if we say, oh no, see, within our state, it's open season on the prohibition enforcers. Like there's a few times where they're just going to be killed by the criminal element.
Do we have examples of ICE agents being killed?
We do have some of them being doxxed. We do have some of them in Dallas. There was a few that were killed, but it was like one of those distant shooters kind of thing. And so they're actually going to go try to get this person, but they were in Texas. But it's like what would happen if now, especially the building, right? It's like, oh well, here's the building. Let's light it on fire. You can't detain anybody here because there's no building anymore. And everyone winks and nods, and you're like, that then it looks really different. And I think maybe that's the situation that they're in Oregon.
It's just crazy. It's crazy to see the news reports of these, and I can't. It's so hard for me to believe that they're rolling out the exact same description, mostly peaceful protests. But
Yeah, fiery,
yeah, but
mostly.
it's crazy. It's crazy. You see these events, and you see the news anchors talking about behind me, da, 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 and then you hear the the public press briefings or whatever from the governor, mayor. We have no problems here. People are out, roller
Summer of
skating
love.
and eating ice cream, and this is I don't understand why would you you're just to me it's like, dude, are you serious? Like it's so hard to
Well,
wrap your heads around.
they're not serious about that. They're in league with the anarchists. Like that's clearly what's happening.
Nah,
No, that's what's happening.
nah.
They're
What's the so what's okay? I'll entertain it. So what's
why else
the
would they do that?
percentage
I
of
mean, are
it?
you saying that they're like, fools? They're just so completely incompetent that they see a police car upside down and on fire and people dancing around. And you're like, wow, this looks fine to me.
People are just expressing their
Yeah,
displeasure, man.
they're just angry.
They're exercising free assembly, man.
It's
And
like, oh, these stores were looted. It's like, well, you do have to understand income
there's
inequality.
flammable material everywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
things
Uh,
catch on fire.
there, I
Building
think
7 fell to the ground all on its own. I mean,
all by
it just
itself, no,
stuff
not a
happens.
scratch on it.
Yeah.
No, I think what it is that that having these large scale protests, and I hate to use the word protest because I don't think it underscores how well organized these events are. So you'll have one group that makes sure that everyone has appropriate signs, hard signs they can use to push against the police, helmets,
Like mass
disguises.
deportations now, like
Yep.
those kind of signs.
There'll be there'll be groups that cover things like making sure everyone's fed. Like there's free food at these things. Like there's stations all along the way, and someone's paying for that. Someone's paying for there are all sorts of, and it's like this is a whole industry.
Shoot, I wish I'd known that. I might have showed up. I would have had a better.
Yeah, well, that's the
target
thing is
audience.
that's the thing is like in that part of like in Portland, parts of Seattle, it's like it's an industry, a protest industry. And so we normally think about protests as like, well, people are out in the
Land of
streets because
opportunity, man.
what?
It's the land of opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and so it's like, okay, that's fine. Like that's not illegal, right? I'm not saying that. But when you say protest, you're thinking like people spontaneously showing up in the streets. It's like, no, like people are, some of them paid by the day, show up in their gear. You'll be
Well,
equipped, you'll have the stuff, and like we're all going to work
to be
together.
fair,
And so
most protests are organized. I mean, you don't have a million-man march spontaneously. I mean,
right.
there's an organizer, there's an incentive program. There are vendors that show up with food and water, and I mean, even humanitarian groups will like, hey, make sure everybody's.
Yeah.
So I mean, I feel you.
Yeah. Well,
it is suspicious that there seems to be one organization that seems to be funding every aspect of some of these and multiple of these. That's interesting.
that's also
that is unusual.
that's
but
fascinating. But that's just kind of what's going on over there. And I think that as long as they're doing that stuff and it's helping those in charge, then I don't think there's any reason for them to leave. This is one of the things I was talking to some of my students about this back in 2021. Right after, because 2020, you had all these massive, and some of my more conservative leaning students were like, well, why would all these lawmakers sit here and be in favor of people like setting fire to buildings or like declaring part of their city to be not part of the United States anymore and all this other stuff? And I said, look, you don't understand. If your job is, if you see your job as delivering more government to more people, then if you have a bunch of people that are out there shouting, we need more government should fix this, well, guess what they're talking about? They're talking about you. And that who's going to be fixing it? You, with the programs that you design, with the people that you hire. You're going to be so important once you're put in charge of fixing this thing, because they're not saying government get out, right? If they say government get out, those people get put in jail. It's the people that are like, we need more government. And then those people are the ones that, the government loves those people. So for right now, it is in their political interest, or at least it was in 2020. It was in their political interest to have these really violent protests. Now, I don't know what's going on right now in Portland. Like I said, I haven't been following this that much. I know there's been some work in some of the groups that are like the anti-fascist groups or whatever that they have they been officially declared terrorist organizations, domestic terrorist organizations?
So that's going to be our next topic of
Okay.
conversation right there. Yeah.
Okay. Because I think that is so. Like, who exactly patrols the streets of Portland? Okay, like that's interesting. I don't think they're dealing with mass levels of, like, it's not like DC was where like he had giant homicide level suddenly nothing. Like, I don't think you're going to see something like that in Portland. As far as the Antifa stuff, that I think is something new. So, you know, we'll see what happens there. I'm kind of curious to see if there's any teeth behind the terrorist designation. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that one? I feel like I've been talking a long time about this.
I think that I think it's very easy to get roped into the larger discussion of whether it's appropriate to have American troops, military troops, policing American citizens in any context. In general, and actually quite specifically, I would be against that. It's against the Constitution and all kinds of military.
Sure.
We have a lot of military examples of where that does not work out well. So, but leaving that aside for the minute, like, I also think it's untenable to have a climate of crime going on, and what I think is interesting is, I can see the case for why you would want to deploy let's use just the same scenario, to deploy the National Guard to clamp down on an emergency of crime, right? Somewhere. Like, so the Rodney King riots, let's say, or even the George Floyd riots in Minnesota, they're different hotspots that flash up, and you do need extra protection, and that does make sense. And again, in coordination with local officials requesting it, it's like, okay, well, yeah, that's, we're happy to help, right? I mean, I remember the military, we all swear allegiance to the same Constitution. Let's go. There's no percentage in your average American taxpayer, husband, father, wife, kid going to school where it's like, hey, more crime is good for us, right? Like, that's not, not good. So now what I think, what I've come to think over the last few months is that this administration is clearly using these things to as an opportunity to demonstrate strength and an opportunity to demonstrate their commitment to law and order, right? And you can put whatever spin you want on whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, or what their motives might be or whatever. But I mean, clearly that's what's going on, because they're cherry picking. There's high crime in multiple places around the country, and I would argue there's higher crime and more egregious crime going on in different places than, a few hundred people. I mean, I just put a link to it. Robbie was like, yeah, I didn't know about any protests in Portland. I'm like, dude, you just go to YouTube and protest in Portland, and you'll get all kinds of recent videos of people. Everybody's got a cell phone now, So that being said, every example is a couple hundred people. It's not like huge mobs, they're flashpoints, and like you said, they're organized, to get media attention. And so, I was thinking about your example earlier where you were like, if you were trying to lobby for more government services and here's a crowd art. What I think most lawmakers who are, let's say, more friendly to protests in general, those people aren't seeking to deliver more government services as much as they believe in social change, right? And that there's a flashpoint here where um, marginalized groups of people, historically marginalized groups of people, are beginning to rise up and say, "Hey, we're not going to take it anymore," and the system needs to be rebalanced in order to provide a more fair playing field. And it's all of these policies, whether it's DEI or all this other stuff, is organized around that idea, right? That we're trying to level the playing field for groups that have historically been marginalized. And
Or
when
rebalance
you
it.
say rebalance it, and when you say it that way, and I'm intentionally using the flattest possible language I can for it. When you say it that way, it's hard to disagree. I mean, who would not be for that, right? Like, we do need to make a level playing field for everyone. And so if there's areas where it's not level, thanks for calling it to our attention. What can we do about it, right? But that what ends up happening is these programs, because when you try to tune for outcomes, you get all these unintended consequences. And I was reading some, Thomas Sowell. Like, I mean, so this
Mhm.
Sowell wrote like a long time ago, but the idea that he put out, which I think is just a fascinating. I was rereading something, and it just was. I'll send you the passage, but it made me think about things. You know how we like to bifurcate. There's two types of people. There's people on the right, and
Right.
people on the left.
Right.
There's populists and establishment. There's corporate people and individual people. There's whatever. But Sowell makes the demarcation. People who believe the language he uses is a little different, but he's basically saying, do you believe that people are generally able to evolve past what we would call human interest, right? Like there's a standard of human behavior, right? Like most people that study civics are familiar with the idea. The reason that the founders created divided government, instead of some parliamentary system or something, is that they knew, look, human nature is people have egos. People want power. People will do anything to get more power. Everybody's greedy. Everybody operates in their own self-interest. People are interested in taking care of others if they see that they are connected to those people, have an affinity for those people, otherwise believe that they're responsible for those people, of course, right? But en masse, I mean, you can interview 1 million people, you're going to get the same answer. When the zombie apocalypse happens, right, and every man's for himself, you can guarantee that, like, I'm not going to be concerned about laws or niceties or principles. I'm going to be making sure that my kids are fed and have a place to sleep and are not being attacked by zombies, right? So that everybody's wired that way. And so when the founders wrote the Constitution, they were like, okay, well, look, we're taking into account human nature, and we've seen monarchies and all these other stuff go this way. And so what we're going to do is divide the government and put this power center over here, this power center over here, this power center over here, so that these things in tension with each other, that the best of our human nature, like that wants progress, that wants to grow, that does want good things for me, for sure, but also everybody else, right? That recognizes that has the more evolved mindset of, whatever, that yeah, there's room in there to realize those things, right? Maybe a little slower than other systems, but they will come up and bubble up and the society will move forward. At the same time, we're going to block or stymie or generally try to confound any one individual from accruing the kind of power that would lead to monarchy, demagoguery, and tyranny, et cetera, right?
Right.
And so that's what Sowell talks about. He's like basically, there's people believe that, hey, human nature is comprised of good things and bad things, and people tend to, at the very bottom, take care of themselves and pursue their own interests to the exclusion of everybody else's interest. That's the way people are. Versus, well, yeah, some people are like that, but people can also be perfected, and with enough education, they can overcome those baser desires, etc. And he divides people like that, and which I
Like
think was
the two groups of people will just never agree.
those people are never, well, because it's a philosophical question, right? Like, are people born generally good, and it's all these societal things that that they interact with that cause them to be jaded and racist
Selfish
or
and
selfish or whatever the is that we want to slap on them, right? Or are those things natural in society, and actually, like, the reason people turn out to be good is because they're surrounded with love and they're taught, no, you don't do that, you do this, right? So it's an interesting concept. I mean, philosophers have been debating it since they could think about that idea, right? So, I mean, you can tell me, have they come up with an answer for that? Not really. You pick one, right? And you're like, that seems more reasonable to me. So I think a lot of these liberal ideas, and by liberal I mean like the ideas coming from the idea of like community and putting the community ahead of yourself, and the general ideas of being empathetic towards people and wanting to take care of people, etc. All of which I share those ideas, but they have to be delivered in the understanding that people are going to take advantage of that for their own means and their own uses. And so you have to have mechanisms put in place to deliver what is measurably useful and not begin to cannibalize things that, the guardrails that keep society functioning. And they're not doing a good job of that. That's my critique of the left, right? My critique of the right in this moment is that, it's breathtaking how fast. I mean, what is this? This is October 1st, right? So it only took us 10 months to go from absolute free speech. Like, I mean, I could pull Donald Trump quotes from 11, 12 months ago that are diametrically opposed to his own tweets from last week, about Kimmel and all this other stuff. The same thing with lawfare. The same thing about all these other things where it's like, look, you were standing on principle, and that was awesome.
Witch hunt.
Right.
Yeah.
And now, all of a sudden, those principles, well, in this case, though, I still believe in those principles. But in this case, and it's like, well, but in this case is the exact rationale that they used on you, brother. So it's like, in this case, this guy's so dangerous. We gotta extraordinary times call for extraordinary measures. So it's Sowell makes the case that the people that are so focused on the ends, and so whatever means we have to use to get there, right, is because I'm committed to these means, to this end, right? They actually, like, over time, that's where all the worst outcomes of humanity come from, like all of them, right? Whether it's hey, we want everybody to be fed and housed, and we don't want, all those different things. Like, it's like these are beautiful ideas, and they all end up ending up in totalitarianism and state control, right? And it's like, on the other hand, the people that are like, look, even though I'm not getting what I want right now, and even though, in fact, standing for this principle is getting me the worst outcome possible, but I'm still committed so much to the principle that we're going to continue to stand on that principle. Those people are just, I mean, I don't even know where, can you even think of one in public life right now?
So there have been a few. I think Ron and Rand Paul are examples of this.
I'll give it to Ron. I don't know about Rand.
Yeah. I mean, he's very consistent on the things that he's consistent on, right?
Yeah, I mean, he has been consistent on
but Ron Paul for sure.
Ron for sure, yeah.
Certainly.
He's a different generation, bro.
Yeah, true. That's what I'm saying. But I think the reason why you don't see that very much in public life is because it's not rewarded. Like, I don't think.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah, but it's rewarded. I guess it's not rewarded by the voters. The voters don't want someone with real principle, because if they did, that's what they would get. They would sail through the primaries.
Yeah,
but they don't. Instead, you get people that are scam artists, grifters, people who say whatever. Either they have their thumb on the pulse, or they've got a good enough group doing all of the messaging dynamics work to, and the case, what do they call those, where they get the groups together and test out different
focus groups.
Yeah, it's all focus groups.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, yesterday you were for this, but now you're for that. It's like, yeah, I mean, really classical example of this is Beto O'Rourke, who I don't think he ever saw a popular view that he didn't agree with. And, you know,
that was Mitt Romney was like that. It was like,
yeah, Romney was absolutely.
here are all the things Mitt Romney is against. Here are all the things Mitt Romney is for.
Oh
It's
my
like
gosh,
they're
it's
all
the
the same list.
same.
Same
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
this is one of the, I'm not doing a both sides thing. I'm talking about like just individually, those are the people that wind up getting elected. And so, I don't know, I don't, I don't tell you, you know, I think that the, probably the best you can hope for is that if enough people are principled, then eventually their ideas are the ones that over the long term will prevail. But that would be a very optimistic way of looking at it. It's like, yeah, we have these imperfect vessels that are going to implement this for us, and but you know, it gets closer and closer and closer the further along we go.
Okay, well, so that's a good segue into our
Okay.
next topic, which it may turn out to be our final topic. I'm not sure, but I suspect you and I both may have a lot to say about this one. So this was a this was the National Security Presidential Memorandum number 7, which was published 5-6 days ago. So it directs the Secretary of State, Homeland Security, and Treasury, as well as the AG, to coordinate and supervise a comprehensive national strategy to investigate, prosecute, and disrupt entities and individuals engaged in acts of political violence and intimidation. The individuals and entities outlined in the memorandum include those who hold the following beliefs: anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, anti-Christianity, support of the overthrow of the U.S. government, extremism on migration, race, or gender, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family, religion, and morality.
Okay, this summary page, what is that from? What is that? SO, what is that?
Oh, I don't know. It was the full text of this is nothing on here is incorrect. It's all
Where
this is
do you have
we
a
can
link
pull up
to
the White House one.
I want to see the White House proclamation. Is
I don't like the way
on.
that's characterized. Huh?
Well, I mean, there's so many activist groups out there. It's very
Well, okay. So I have the White House thing up. We'll pull it up in a minute. But
okay.
is it fair to say that this, at least this characterization, you find problematic?
So this looks to me like
if this was the proclamation, you'd be like, "Nah, I'm not down with that."
So this looks like to me the mirror of the thing that was going on during the Obama administration targeting the Tea Party. So it's like, okay, any organization that has the word patriot or America or whatever like that,
but they did that.
Yeah, we're not going to let them, see if you can monkey with their tax exempt status and keep them in court as long as possible. It's like we're not going to go arrest people, but we're definitely going to throw a wrench in the works. And I thought that was pretty.
That was so over the top.
Yeah,
that was ridiculous. You know.
So this looks like this version looks kind of a copy of it in reverse.
This is the
okay. This is the real one.
This is the real page, but
okay, make it big so I can see a little bit bigger, and for our beautiful audience.
Yeah. Okay, so.
Well, can you make it the primary one and have us tucked away on the side? Do you have that ability?
Probably.
You're always in the center.
Here.
It's vanity. Yeah.
Okay. It is vanity. Okay.
You're so handsome.
So, this is from Trump basically. So reason.
Okay.
So
all right.
This is this strategy here.
So political violence, terrorism, conspiracy against rights, violent deprivation of any citizen's rights. Okay. Close ties to foreign government agents, cities, foundation, or influence networks engaged in the violations of FARA. So people who are already breaking the law with FARA, we're going to go, or money laundering.
I would suppose that would include APAC, but maybe not.
Who knows? Okay. Consult, coordinate with executive departments, operational assistance, domestic priorities. Okay. This all looks normal. Okay, directly or indirectly financing political violence, domestic terrorism. Okay. IRS, plea agreements, strategies, domestic terrorism, organization. Okay. 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 I'm waiting.
No, that's it.
That's it.
Mhm.
So scroll up a little bit more, and we're looking for keep going up to where they're doing their definitions. There we go. Oh, there you go. Okay, scroll down a bit. All right. This joint task force is going to investigate potential federal crimes relating to acts of recruiting or radicalizing persons for the following purposes. So here's what we got: political violence, terrorism, or conspiracy against rights, or the violent deprivation of any citizen's rights. And then also any institutional and individual funders and officers and employees of organizations that are responsible for, sponsor, or otherwise aid and abet the principal actors engaging in the criminal conduct described in subsections A and B of this section, which we just looked at. Okay, cool. What's your problem with this document?
The targeting around those.
Political violence, terrorism,
Mhm.
conspiracy against rights.
Well,
Violence.
that's
what's listed.
So there hasn't really been like we know what international terrorism is, right? The war on terror and whatever else. But they've really, they being every administration, it's really hard to say domestic terrorism because you're if I say like for example, you remember when Trump was giving Obama all this hell about like how he won't say Islamic extremism,
Yeah,
and it's like, well, yeah, because the minute I say Islamic terrorism, I'm associating people who follow Islam
right.
with terrorism. That these ideas lead to
Oh,
it's
I
an
know,
outgrowth of
but
this.
Eric,
And so it's the same. It's the same thing with Christian nationalism, right? It's like,
but
you
nothing
got a
in
lot.
this says so that thing that you showed was like, oh my gosh, they're going to go target anybody that isn't in favor of Christianity. And I'm looking at this document, and the document says radicalizing people for the purposes of political violence. I mean, I assume we're against political violence, right?
Yep.
Conspiracy against rights, terrorism against, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? The violent deprivation of any citizen's rights. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
where is it saying stuff like those who deny that Thomas Jefferson was believed in God or something? Like that's not
I didn't know who said
right. I
that.
know, but that's what I'm saying. Like this is just saying that if you're an organization that commits federal crimes involving recruiting and radicalizing people for these reasons, all of which are crimes, or you're one of the people that as an institution funds organizations that do this, that before where this might have just been like a piecemeal thing where the crime happens over here, crime happens over there, we're going to actually put a task force together to track this stuff down and stop it from occurring any longer by prosecuting the people that are doing these things, which all of which are crimes. So where is how does this match up? Is this the same? Did you pull up the right thing? Is this the same thing that you were showing me that summary of? Because this doesn't seem to be that summary to match the summary at all.
Mm.
Am I
Uh,
what am I missing here?
okay, so as this is written on the White House website, you're like, I don't see anything objectionable to
Well, I mean, do you see anything about it? I mean, most of it is like here we're setting up a task force. It has some instructions for how to set up the task force, and then as far as the people that the task force will be um, investigating, it's stuff that is in fact federal crimes. So,
that.
uh,
So
oh
the
wait,
section that
go up,
yeah,
up.
the
Okay,
section
so
that
this
you're
is
asking about is up here.
okay. All right, scroll down a bit
So it's right in here somewhere.
because I'm confused otherwise. campaign begins by isolating.
Right here.
Yeah.
There are common. So here, listen.
Okay.
There are common recurrent motivations and indicia, things that indicate uniting this pattern of violent and terroristic activities under the umbrellas of self-described anti-fascism. These movements portray foundational American principles as fascist to justify and encourage acts of violent revolution.
Okay, hold on. Stop there. True or false?
I don't.
Just as a
I think
description of what's happening.
No, I wouldn't say that's true. There are people that yell fascism when they see like the aggressive enforcement of like, let's say, the immigration laws or different things like that, right?
You're not in the same left-wing spaces that I'm in. That is exactly what they're doing. That's just a description. They've been hanging out on Blue Sky, and that's what's on Blue Sky.
Yeah, I don't go on Blue Sky, so that's that's a gap in my awareness. So
yeah, that's just
down here
completely normal.
These are the controlling sentences.
Okay, so this anti-fascist lie has become the organizing rallying cry used by domestic terrorists to wage a violent assault against democratic institutions, constitutional rights, and fundamental American liberties. Again, I don't think false so far. Common threads animating this violent conduct include anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, and anti-Christianity. Support for the overthrow of the United States government, extremism on migration, race, and gender, and hostility towards those who hold traditional American views on family religion. Okay, so there's where it's coming from. As described in the order of September 22, groups and entities that perpetuate this extremism have created a movement that embraces and elevates violence to achieve policy outcomes, including justifying additional assassinations. Charlie Kirk's alleged assassin engraved the bullets used in murder, so-called anti-fascist rhetoric. True. Okay. National strategy to investigate and disrupt networks and foment political violence so law enforcement can intervene in criminal conspiracies which result in violent political acts. Conference strategy over networks, entities, organizations promote organized violence. Yep. Okay. So I think I see what's going on here.
Go ahead.
So I think what this is, so the stuff about like what is currently going on for within these anti-fascist spaces, it's exactly right. That is what they're saying, and so I don't think that what the document is saying is that it is illegal to say be anti-Christianity or to advocate for the overthrow of the United States government, which you're, by the way, allowed to do as part of your First Amendment right.
Well, not anymore, because now you can be designated as a domestic terrorist.
So what this is about is groups that promote actual violence. So in the same way that like you can't, if you were a group that, any group that tries to encourage or organize political violence is likely.
If that look, if all it said was, hey, violence that is politically motivated is something that is much higher on our radar now, and we are taking extra steps to, that's now higher on our priority list, right? Okay, nothing to object to there. It should be a higher priority, right? But what this specifically says is we are going to develop a comprehensive strategy for law enforcement to use to disband and uproot the networks that promote. Now, organized violence is one thing on this list that promote organized violence or violent intimidation or conspiracies against rights. All three of those I'd be fine with. It's the fourth one. Other efforts to disrupt the functioning of a democratic society. That can be interpreted however you want.
Yeah. So if we're just talking about that part of the sort of the catch-all in there, that is probably ripe for abuse, and I think it would go into the same category of like obstruction of justice. Like, well, anything could be obstruction of justice, and so that's been abused, and this will probably be abused in the same way.
Think about this, right? Is it desirable for people to have, a respect for, our government and our government's, institutions?
What now?
Like, like we pick some things that we all agree on, right? Like, hey, because it's desirable, because all these documents start out with, because of this, because of this, because of this, therefore we're going to do this, right?
Yeah.
That's what they did in this, right? So all these people with these ideas are and their protests and causing violence, so we got to stop it. So think of how easy it would be for President AOC, let's say, to issue literally an exact same document as this, and we're just going to reword it, right, to say that since Christian nationalists have been known to have violent protests, as demonstrated by January the 6th and other events since then.
Yeah.
And these there have been political assassinations by right wing people, and so it's like, okay, so because of these things, we are now going to have an aggressive policy of disrupting any of these organizations who are promoting and espousing ideas of Christian nationalism.
Wait,
right?
why are you putting this in the past tense? Biden already did this.
He designated Christian nationalists as a domestic
So
terror.
no, not that specifically, but he was having like people that were protesting like trans bathrooms investigated for domestic terrorism stuff. So like some parent would show up at a PTA meeting and be like, "I'm against the trans
Sure.
bathroom thing," and then they would be put on like watch lists as part of a potential domestic terror network, and all their stuff would get looked into.
Okay. So
This has already happened. I mean, that's
okay. So
that's already
do you find that objectionable? I
Sure.
certainly do. Okay. So, and that was done as a, I'm sure there's a memorandum somewhere that says, we're going to be doing this, right?
Yeah.
But it was a
Biden was very proud of it. He talked about it.
Well, he never designated. Whatever. That's fine. Let's say it's already been done. So if it's already been done and you didn't like it, then what? Again, it's the same thing with the lawfare. It's like, dude, we already know you don't like that. It's not cool. People, not only do you not like it, and is it not cool, but also the American public. Like, had Biden not gone after Trump the way he had, I would argue he probably wouldn't be president right now. I mean, so like it literally pours gasoline all over your opponent's cause when they're able to use this and rally around it as totalitarianism and government control. So like if Republicans already have used even the examples that you're given in the past to great political effect to basically take back control of the country, why in the world would you think this is a good idea? Aside from the constitutional questions.
Yeah. So strategically, it might be a mistake. I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it turns out. Like if you wind up,
it's almost certainly a mistake. We already know how this works out.
Well, so it depends on the activities of these JTTFs, right? So if you're looking at what happened with the ones under the Biden administration, we had quite literally PTA moms being harassed by the FBI. Okay,
yeah, but they weren't subjected to Joint Terrorism Task Force. This is an escalation. I mean, certainly we can agree on that.
Well, what I'm saying though is that harassing PTA moms is strategically bad, right?
Sure.
If you wind up, if this task force winds up getting like some real meaty prosecutions out of it, like especially since, and I think this is where the main, if I was guessing, the main thing is going to be that second section 2, where talking about the influence networks engaged in violations of the Foreign Agents Registration Act. I think that's probably, if I was guessing, probably where the most of this action is going to be, is finding out that a lot of these very well-funded anarchist groups are actually funded by foreign actors. In which case it's like, well, we don't need to send people over there to mess with our enemy. We can just fund the dissidents there to a tune and like help them get violent and everything. And then we're just a charity organization. The way taking the Islamic terrorism angle, the way that sometimes the Muslim Brotherhood would be able to be funded as a charity in some countries, but then actually perform violent acts of political terrorism in another. And I think if that's something that gets uncovered, I think well, then we're looking at something that could be a strategic win. If they're going after, some poor kid that, is confused and believes that, the people that misgender them are Nazis or something, then it looks bad for everybody because like nobody wants.
But we already know how these guys. I mean, as you
That's
say,
the thing.
time will tell how
Yeah.
they enforce this. But we have 10 months of evidence on how they enforce, their other policies. I mean, they black bagged that chick for writing an editorial page in the school newspaper.
It's very likely that they're going to mess it up. So I have no great faith in. Oh no, the government, they're competent. No, they're not. But I think that if it turns out that there is like a massive influence network funded overseas that contributes to or is in some way controlling, like if we get like messages of stuff like we'll pay X number of protesters to show up at this time at this date to whatever, and we figure out who's funding it, and the funding is coming from people who are trying to disrupt America for political reasons, and they're foreigners.
But by definition,
that's very meaty.
But by definition, that's not domestic terrorism.
It is.
No, not by definition. By definition, that is international disruption using American idiots to affect it. But it's not.
They're American. It's American citizens being recruited into a terrorist network an international terrorist network.
That's fine, but that's not what this is targeting. What this is targeting is, and again, I'll give you some time to go read it. You haven't read it yet, so. But this is targeting domestically engineered initiatives and disrupting the Americans who are trying to quote unquote destroy the country, according to them, right? And my biggest, but not my only point, my biggest point about this is, I mean, we could have a whole conversation about, constitutionality and why this is a bad idea and all this other stuff and unprecedented and whatnot. But I know unprecedented doesn't really get your juices flowing, but the end effect of this is going to be, is very disturbing in the sense that like, there are a lot of groups that like I personally not just identify with, but am part of, right? Like, so I am a Christian. I am a white dude. I am a dad, right? I am all those different things. And so it's like when you get sucked up in say, toxic masculinity, right? It's like, oh, well, you're a guy, you're a white man, you're part of the whole toxic masculinity thing. It's like, okay, well, that personally affects me, and let me push back on that because I think that's it's the same thing. It's like it would be very easy for a different administration to point this laser beam on you, because I mean let's face it. I mean, Christian nationalism is a real thing. It is a real, in my opinion, dangerous thing, and it's something that it would be very easy to associate you or me with because we're both, professing Christians. And it's like, and we both like, I love Jesus and I also love my country. And I'm also, so you're a Christian nationalist. I'm like, well, no, I'm not. Here's why.
Yeah.
But
I think with this one, I think there is a pretty concerted effort to radicalize people that is going on right now. And I think
well, I would agree with you, but I'm not sure that I would say it's only on the left.
No, I'm not saying it's only on the left.
Well, that's why I'm saying whenever the left is back in power, they're not going to be concerned about policing themselves. They're going to want to police you.
I know. All I'm saying is, I think for a lot of people, and myself included here, the number of people that were excited and thrilled about Charlie Kirk's murder because of the fascism thing. I think Blair White, one of the trans influencers, that's pretty popular in right-wing circles, which is kind of a funny thing to say. Yeah. But she, I guess we'll use her preferred pronouns. She said that so they don't call you they don't kill you because you're a fascist. They call you a fascist so that it's okay to kill you. As basically her take.
I mean that's correct.
And so it's like, well, okay, if there's a group out there that is doing this, it kind of doesn't matter what their political motivations are. Like, it could have just been as easily anti-communist, and so we're going after different people. That's anti-fascist, and so we'll figure out who the fascist is so we can go kill them or celebrate their death or help
But that's
donate
where
to causes.
that's where the irony of this administration, which I mean, dude, look, Trump has done some good things and some other things, but I mean, like, ultimately, nobody has pioneered dehumanizing your opponent to a greater extent than this guy. I mean,
Yeah.
He's labeled the press the enemy of the people. He's labeled Democrats enemy of the people. He's labeled he engages in the labeling and dehumanization of his opponents. Not I'm sure in his heart he doesn't want people dead, but it's like, but it has the effect, just like the people that are yelling fascist, that not everybody that says Republicans are fascists want Republicans to die.
Not all who say fascist. I'm just kidding. No.
But I agree with you that, like, participating in that exercise ultimately does slap a label on them that some people will translate as, oh, it's okay to eliminate those people. But that's been going on from, it's been pioneered by Trump more than anybody else. So to me, It's like, this is pretty interesting.
I think for you and I, who don't live in areas that have really strong Antifa presence in it, maybe we're looking at it like, man, there's a group out there that has certain political views. Now they're going to be prosecuted for having those political views.
No, I'm not saying that. I know what Antifa is engaged in.
Right.
But also Antifa itself is just there is no Antifa. That's right. There is no Antifa. So it's like that's why when you use these words, like in this document, where it's like you're addressing something like, okay, these are your targets, right? Anti-fascist, anti-Christian, anti-American, it's like, well, gosh, I mean, that could apply to anybody. I mean, that applies to atheists. That applies to,
Yeah, I guess when I'm looking at this, it's like, if there is a group out there, and so maybe we'll just put a big if in front of it, okay?
Sure.
If there is a group out there that not only talks about the overthrow of the United States, but is using political violence to try to achieve that. And so they're breaking all sorts of laws in this regard.
That organization should absolutely be prosecuted.
If there is such an organization, then not only should they be prosecuted, and we should try to figure out who's in it and how it's getting its funding, and there's probably a lot of targets there. But also, I don't think it does any good to kind of pussyfoot around about what that group is claiming. So if this was 2000, wait. If this was 2001, right, and we had this similar kind of memo, it would be about probably radical Islamic something or other, jihadists or something like that. And it's like, oh my gosh, is it now illegal to be a Muslim? Are all Muslims being targeted? It's like, well, maybe that is what happened, but it shouldn't be. If we're going after these groups that are doing political violence, and here's some of the stuff they're saying. Here's the reasons that they're giving for engaging in political violence. So here we go.
As soon as I get done here.
Here's these groups. Here's the reasons they're giving for political violence. We want this stopped 15. Because political violence in our country is not allowed.
But okay, so here's my question. This hypothetical group that you're talking about, right? They're already breaking a whole host of laws.
Yep.
So you don't need a declaration of domestic terrorism in order to go after that group. Like that makes this entire exercise kabuki, right? Which maybe it is, but
no. So what you need is that JTTF, because otherwise, what happens is you wind up with like a prosecutor somewhere, or like in this jurisdiction, there's one person or whatever, and there's no coordination, there's no funding.
Well, no, so I agree with you.
That's what you need all this stuff for.
Well, so here's the thing, and this is why I find this so objectionable. Is that so when you designate internationally, if I designate this country as a state sponsor of terrorism, right? Yep. That opens up a lot of legal recourses that I did not have before. Just the same way declaring an emergency, now all of a sudden you have magical powers, right?
Absolutely.
So it's the same thing. And so what they're doing is they're using the and again, this is one of those, things where you're like, dude, Patriot Act is the root of all evil. But like by designating anti-fascists, anti-Christians, capitalists as a domestic terror, you're engaging in domestic terrorism when you're engaging in those things. And so therefore we can now do Joint Terrorism Task Force, and we can now unlock all of these extra Patriot Act tools and stuff to go after you. That's very disturbing, because again, like, I'm not saying that the disruption is something that we should be, putting up with. I'm saying that we should be using existing tools to go after the disruption, so as to not unintentionally like form a police state that's going after an entire political class of people that could very easily be turned on you in 3 years. That's where it's like, this is playing with some fire. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. So are you kind of against joint task force like this entirely?
Got it. Yes. What's that now? I'm gonna have to go, but
are you against joint task force like this just as a general rule? Like, they would need to be only in the most extraordinary circumstances?
I'm saying that that while I totally disagree with Biden's targeting of people like that, he never designated conservative Christians as a potentially, domestic terror group, right? Because now he did coordinate federal, pressure to be put on those people, and I find that to be outrageous. However, it's like, okay, if I find that outrageous, then this is like 10 times more outrageous, because it's unlocking all these extra tools to let's face it, the political unrest that's happening is in response to policies that the administration is putting forward. And so that doesn't mean that they shouldn't be putting the policies forward. It doesn't mean that the violence and the uprising or unrest is positive or should be condoned or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it is in response to policy initiatives. And so like to designate literally your political opponents as domestic terrorists is just not smart, man, because obviously if for no other reason, then they're going to do it to you next. And so I just don't see why people are cheering about this or not stressed about it, or not stressed about it, but like it's no big deal, because it's a very big deal.
Well, so I've been following a lot of the Antifa stories since around 2020, where before that I just thought of like, okay, there's groups on the left coast, the West Coast, that are all
left coast
professional anarchists, and I just didn't even think about it. But after 2020, I started looking into it a lot more, and I think there is more, and people will disagree about this, but I think there's more organization, more explicitly about violence, advocating for and equipping people and engaging in violence than you would think by just calling it like your political opponents.
Okay, so my question is this, and then I have to go. We can think about it for later.
Yeah.
And thank you guys for watching. But if you're sure, which I agree, I believe that too. How would existing law enforcement, not have all the evidence they need to go prosecute those people?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, we got emails, they come from somewhere, somebody writes them, the money comes from somewhere, follow the money.
Yep.
I'm not saying we shouldn't enforce the laws. What I'm saying is that designating anti-Americanism, anti-Christian, anti-capitalism as domestic terror groups, that's
so I think you're making a logical error here, right? It's not that any groups that have those views are Antifa. It's that Antifa has those views. So it's not that feeds back around like, oh, you're one of these, so that must mean, oh, you're not a Christian, that must mean you're a part of Antifa. It's like, no, and Antifa has these views, and they're domestic violence. I think the closest analog for this would be if we round the clock like 20 years when there was a lot of right-wing militias, and if like the right-wing militia group got labeled as domestic terrorists, which I think they probably almost did. You have a couple high-profile cases like Ruby Ridge, and to some extent the Branch Davidians go into this group or whatever.
Right, but both of those were shocking examples of federal overreach.
Exactly. So I think if that's what you're saying is like, hey, look, this has already been tried and it turns out bad. Like, don't do it.
Right.
I think there's a good case to be made there. So I'm kind of with you on it.
I'm so sorry to have to like close it down soon, but
All right.
Dude, I appreciate it. This is really good. Thanks for making the time, and maybe we'll do it next week.
I'll
Maybe
try.
it'll be 2 weeks. We'll see.